The Varellan spire was less a ship and more a cathedral of contempt, floating in the void like a crown jewel. Gleaming spires of crystal alloy jutted from its hull, glimmering with alien light. As the human delegation's shuttle docked, Dr. Lena Rose stared at the behemoth from her viewport and reminded herself to breathe. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Commander Raj Okoye beside her, adjusting the fasteners on his dress uniform. "Doesn't help that our hosts act like we're their lab rats." "They're not going to dissect us," Lena said, but even her voice wavered. Raj snorted. "Not physically." The ramp hissed open, revealing the Taluan welcoming party. 7 tall figures, each draped in flowing silver robes, stood silently in formation. Their smooth, coppery skin shimmered under the artificial starlight. The leader, Eslav Talron, High Adjudicator of the Zithari Concord, stepped forward. His elongated skull bore the etched sigils of rank, and his 4 violet eyes radiated disdain. "Humans," he said, voice silky and hollow. "The newest primitives to scrape at the edge of the stars. Welcome to the Concord's cradle of reason." His high tongue was translated through neural implants, but Lena caught the condescension in the cadence. The Taluan used formal honorifics for sentient equals. For humans, they chose none. Lena stepped forward, careful to modulate her posture. Enough humility to avoid offense, enough confidence to avoid being seen as prey. "Dr. Lena Rowe, xenoanthropologist and cultural liaison. On behalf of Earth's United Council, we thank you for hosting us." Talron sniffed, then turned and began walking without another word. The humans followed through the towering halls, surrounded by alien beauty that felt more like judgment than architecture. The first days were filled with assessments, polite inquisitions dressed up as exchanges. Humans were tested on philosophy, ethics, logic, and mathematics. Every answer seemed wrong before it was spoken. The Taluan prided themselves on cold precision, on dispassion. Emotion, they claimed, was the chaff of evolution. "Interesting," said a Taluan scholar during one session, "that your species values art, despite its measurable uselessness." Lena, flipping through her notes, raised an eyebrow. "And yet you build ships that look like cathedrals." The scholar blinked. Another laughed softly, then caught himself. They called it the trial of thought, a rite meant to measure cognitive symmetry. It was ceremonial theater, and the humans knew it. They weren't there to be judged. They were there to be mocked. During a break, Lena wandered the spire's gallery, trailing her fingers along a sealed artifact, a stone tablet etched with strange looping script. A plaque labeled it Ancestral Relic, Old Zitharic, untranslated. Old Zitharic. The name made her chest tighten. Raj caught up to her. "You okay?" She nodded, distracted. "This script, it looks Proto-Elamite. Maybe early Sumerian cuneiform. The syntax, it's got linguistic fingerprints." "Meaning?" Lena turned to him, eyes wide. "Meaning I think their dead language is related to one of ours. Or at least follows the same pattern. They haven't translated it. But maybe we can." Raj looked at the Taluan guards posted nearby. "They're going to love that." Later, during a formal reception in the Arboreal Dome, the humans stood stiffly while the Taluan discussed them like art pieces. Lena heard the whispers, filtered through her translator, but laced with venom. They breed emotionally, like vermin. They lack the psionic spark, genetic detritus. Their neural patterns are chaos incarnate. Eslav Talron approached, holding a chalice of dark liquid. "Dr. Rowe," he said with icy calm, "I understand you have an interest in the old tongue. A charming curiosity, like a child playing with ancestral bones." Lena smiled thinly. "Bones often tell us more truth than the mouths of the living." Talron's eyes narrowed. "You presume much, human." Raj stepped closer, protective. But Lena held her ground. "With respect, High Adjudicator, history buried is not history lost." The Taluan's posture stiffened. Around them, silence fell. In the distance, Kethin, the low-caste attendant assigned to Lena, watched with something like awe. That night, Lena and Kethin sat in a private observation chamber. She had carefully extracted images of the ancestral tablet and begun mapping its symbols. Kethin, hesitant, finally spoke. Why do you care about Old Zetheric? Even we do not speak it. Lena glanced at him. That's what makes it powerful. You've forgotten who you were. But this language, these symbols, they're alive. You buried them because they were dangerous. Kethin looked down. Some say the ancestors were not as pure as the Concord teaches. They were warriors, brutal ones. And yet they survived, Lena said. They adapted. They won. He hesitated again. There is a legend, a prophecy. The tongue of the dead shall call truth from stone, and the false heirs shall tremble. It's myth. A bedtime story. Lena stared at the alien stars. Maybe. But maybe it's a warning. The next day, the trial resumed. Talron presented a logic riddle derived from foundational Concord principles. It was designed to be unsolvable without psionic intuition. Lena raised her hand. I recognize the premise. It mirrors an Earth paradox, the liar's loop. But I believe it's older than either of us. In Old Zetheric, this structure was called Vectala, was it not? The room fell silent. Talron froze. His expression twisted. First disbelief, then fury masked under etiquette. Where did you learn that term? Lena stepped forward, voice steady. From your ancestors. Gasps rippled through the Taluan. Even the guards shifted nervously. I studied dead Earth languages. And your Old Zetheric shares deep morphological similarities with ancient human proto-writing. I've reconstructed enough to see patterns. Enough to understand your riddles were first spoken in a tongue of war and hunger, not enlightenment. You dare speak the sacred tongue? Talron growled. I dare speak truth, she said. And the truth is, your ancestors were more like us than you want to admit. That night, a soft chime interrupted Lena's work. It was Kethin. He entered quietly, eyes wide. They're whispering your name. In the lower decks, among the Drawl and the Varthus. Even the Mantari are listening. They say you spoke the words of the dead. That you understood. Lena stood. They laughed at us because they thought we were beneath them. Kethin nodded. But now they're afraid. End of Chapter 1. Word count. 1, 200. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 2 next? Kethin met Lena at the edge of the spire's archival wing, where light from 1,000 data spires shimmered through walls of crystalline memory. He looked different, tensed, eyes darting. They sealed the gallery, he whispered. The old tablet?
Gone.
Moved to a restricted vault. Expected, Lena said, brushing past him. They know I saw something. They don't want me seeing more. They don't want anyone seeing, Kethin corrected. The old tongue is feared. Even mentioning it is sacrilege. She paused at a security door. Then, let's commit sacrilege. With Kethin's clearance and some not-quite ethical overrides from Lena's AI assistant, Tess, they entered a lesser vault, one housing and used reliquary fragments, old data scrolls, and ceremonial cast-offs. Dust, real or artificial, hung in the still air. Tess scanned everything with looping script. Cross-reference against the glyph set from the tablet, Lena said. As they moved through the chamber, Kethin stopped at a sealed obsidian obelisk. This was once part of the Speaker Stones. They say they held the ancestral oaths. Lena stared at the etched spiral text. Not just oaths. This is structured narrative. A chronicle. Her fingers traced the curves. It's poetry. Back in her quarters, Lena pored over the data. Tess provided tentative translations. In blood and storm we forged the sky. We broke the chain and called it honor. Those who forget the tongue of pain shall forget the soul. One day, the tongue will be spoken again, and we shall rise anew. It wasn't just language. It was a worldview, emotional, brutal, philosophical. A culture erased by its descendants. Raj watched from the doorway, arms crossed. This is more than anthropology, isn't it? Lena nodded. They rewrote their history, buried it under psionics and purity. But the bones of their past, they're still talking. Raj frowned. And we're the ones who heard them. Later, Lena walked the reflective halls of the spire alone. The walls weren't glass, but polished memory stone. Taluan psionic engineers claimed they could echo emotion. Lena didn't believe that. Until the hallway wept. A whisper, not audible, pressed into her skull. You are not them, but you remember. She jerked back. Tess, did you get that? No psychic event detected, the AI said. But I registered a temporal distortion spike consistent with memory well interference. A figure stepped into view. Ellerin Vey, the spire's chief psion. I felt it too, she said calmly. Her face was unreadable, her 4 eyes like glimmering amethysts. The stone remembers you. Lena hesitated. What does that mean? Ellerin stepped closer. The old tongue. When you spoke it before the High Council, it awakened more than curiosity. Some among us believe the tongue of the dead should stay dead. And you? Ellerin's voice softened. I believe memory is not our enemy. Word spread. In the dark corners of the spire, whispers grew louder. Low-caste species, the hunched drawl, the eyeless Mantari, even the psychic-scarred Varthus, began to murmur phrases in the dead language, phrases Lena shared quietly, carefully. She didn't teach rebellion. She taught history. Still, the effect was the same. The High Council called a private audience. Talron stood at the head, flanked by other Taluan nobles. His voice was venom silk. You claim to be a scholar, but what you practice is sedition. I practice truth, Lena said. You awaken dangerous memories. There is a reason the old tongue is forbidden. Lena tilted her head. Because it reveals that your empire is built on amnesia? Gasps. Outrage. One noble rose, voice trembling. You think yourself clever, but you are a neural candle in a galaxy of suns. I've seen your suns, she said. They cast long shadows. Talron slammed his hand on the dais. Enough. The human delegation will be confined to quarters. This conversation is over. As guards approached, Raj stepped forward, posture sharp. Touch her, and you find out what Earth keeps in our shadows. The guards hesitated. Lena locked eyes with Talron. You mock humanity because we're unpredictable, because we feel. But it's that chaos that makes us dangerous. You don't understand us, and that scares you. Talron did not respond, but the guards stood down. In confinement, Tess continued her work. Kethan sneaked in what he could, scroll fragments, forbidden lore, food, news. He was changing. Less deferential. More daring. You know what's happening, he said one night. They're listening now. The lower ranks. They're speaking the old words to each other. Some are quoting the warrior texts. Lena nodded. History has power. So does language. Raj entered then, a grim look on his face. They're planning something. I caught a whisper. If the humans won't be silent, we will silence the dead again. They'll try to erase the vaults, Kethan said in horror. Burn the last of the old tongue. Lena stood. Then we get to them first. The spire's inner vaults were off-limits, locked behind psychic seals and guarded by psionic echoes. But Ellerin Vey, the chief psion, appeared in Lena's quarters with a single word. Come. Ellerin led them into the heart of the memory well, a cavern of floating crystal shards, each humming with ancestral echoes. This place is sacred, she said. It records truth unfiltered. Language. Emotion. Memory. What do you want from us? Raj asked. Ellerin looked at Lena. To hear the truth with my own mind. Speak the tongue. Lena swallowed. Then, slowly, she recited a line from a recovered scroll. We bled in the dark, so our children could forget. But the forgetting was a lie. The crystals shimmered. Then voices. Whispering. No. Singing. You are the echo. You are the flame. Kethan fell to his knees, weeping. Raj raised his sidearm, half in reflex. And Ellerin? She smiled. They speak through you, she said to Lena. You are not just a scholar. You are the memory reborn. The council struck fast. The memory well chamber was locked down. Ellerin was placed under purity review. Lena and her team were to be deported, labeled unfit for further diplomatic contact. But it was too late. The spire boiled with rumor. Kethin vanished from servitude, only to re-emerge leading a quiet coalition of low-caste beings demanding access to their forgotten past. Raj intercepted a data packet, thousands of encrypted communications across the Concord, all referencing Lena, the old tongue, and something new. Legacy trial. A myth. A law so ancient the Taluan barely remembered it. But the memory well did. Trial by legacy, an ancestral challenge whereby any being who could prove themselves a rightful heir to the old ways could challenge the current rulers. A ceremonial contest. A bloodless war. And Lena, human outsider, translator, had spoken the key. Late that night, as the humans prepared for possible imprisonment, or worse, Kethin returned. He bore a symbol burned into his robe, an ancestral crest. "I am Kethin of House Velshan," he declared. "Lost bloodline. Forgotten clan. But my name lives in the old tongue." Lena blinked. "Your nobility?" "I was nothing," he said, "until you gave me my name back." He held out a data scroll. "They can't stop the trial now." Lena opened the scroll. The words were simple, but they burned. "We claim the right of memory." End of Chapter 2. Word count, 1, 200. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 3? The trial reverse next? A thousand voices murmured in the spire's grand nexus as the ancient call echoed across the psionic lattice. "We claim the right of memory." For the first time in living memory, the trial of legacy had been invoked. The Concord's noble houses scrambled. For centuries, the right had been a myth, a ceremonial ghost from the days when the Taluan were still fractious warrior clans. Its invocation required a name tied to the old tongue, proof of bloodline or ideological lineage, and a speaker who could give voice to the ancestors. Lena Rowe had become that speaker. In the preparation chamber, Ellerin Vey emerged from the shadows. She'd been stripped of her title, her psionic bands removed, yet she walked with more purpose than Lena had ever seen. "They cannot stop the trial," she said, voice sharp. The right was encoded in the deep Concord, older than the council, older than even Talron's house. To deny it would fracture the unity they claimed to uphold. Kethin nodded, reverent. His clan crest had been formally acknowledged, unearthed through memory stone lineage, his claim verified by relic match. He was a lost noble of House Velshan, a name long thought extinguished during the purge of the warrior tongue. Raj stood nearby, still bristling with tension. "Let me guess. This trial isn't a game of chess." "No," said Ellerin. "It's far older. It is part memory, part rhetoric, part combat. It's not just a contest. It's a confrontation with history itself." Lena stared at her reflection. "And if we lose?" Ellerin's answer was quiet. "Then they will destroy every trace of the old tongue, and perhaps humanity's place among the stars with it." The trial was held in the Chamber of Threnes, a colossal arena fused from memory stone, ringed with psionic monoliths. Floating galleries held the Concord's high houses, emissaries, and curious onlookers from lesser species, who whispered the dead language in secret. Talron presided, flanked by robed adjudicators. His glare could have cut stone. "By ancient right," he intoned, "we recognize the invocation of the trial of legacy. Speaker Lena Rowe of Earth will represent the claim. Her challenge, the truth of the past, and her right to speak it." Lena stepped forward, the ancient glyph of Velshan etched into her robes. Her voice rang out, clear and deliberate. "In the tongue of your ancestors I stand, not to claim your throne, but to unseal your memory." Phase 1. The Remembrance Duel. This phase tested linguistic command. Lena faced 3 Concord scholars in succession, each speaking in fragments of Old Zetheric. Their words were half poetry, half riddle, designed to mislead and entrap. The first scholar posed a paradox. "We were not born, yet we remember. We do not breathe, yet we exhale fire. What are we?" Lena smiled. "The stones of memory." You built your truths upon them, yet now you fear what they might say. The gallery murmured. The second scholar spoke a riddle from the warrior oaths. If you break me, I become stronger. If you bury me, I rise louder. Legacy, Lena answered. It is not a crown. It's a scream in the bones of the silenced. The final scholar recited a war chant in full, daring Lena to respond with its meaning, context, and translation.
She did.
And then recited the counterverse, something only found in the fractured text Ellerin had helped recover. When the blade thirsts, speak of gardens. When the shield trembles, name your home. For battle is not fury, it is memory sharpened. Talron's jaw tightened. Applause rippled from the lower castes. Phase 1 ended in Lena's favor. Phase 2, the mirror debate. Here, Talron himself descended into the circle. Not with weapons, but with words. The humans, he declared, are chaos given breath. They murder their world with fire and steel. What gives them the right to resurrect the violent language of our dark age? Lena answered, stepping into the arena's center. Your people speak of purity. But purity is a lie of the powerful. Your ancestors were warriors, poets, survivors. You bury them under silence and call it peace. Talron sneered. Peace is the absence of entropy. No, Lena said, stepping closer. Peace is not silence. It is balance. Emotion tempered by memory. You fear our chaos because it reflects what you've hidden from yourselves. The old tongue led to bloodshed, Talron countered. And repression leads to stagnation, Lena replied. You strip your people of their past. But memory is not your enemy. It's your foundation. A hush fell. Then a voice from the gallery, Kethin's, echoed in Old Zetheric. We remember. We remember who we were. More voices joined. Raj leaned in toward Lena. I think you just started a movement. Phase 3. The gauntlet. The final trial. Physical. Symbolic. Each participant was to walk the path of ancestry through 5 rings, each representing a forgotten principle. Warrior, healer, seeker, flame bearer, judge. Within each ring, a symbolic trial, sometimes mental, sometimes physical, sometimes both. Lena began with the warrior ring, a simulated combat environment flooded with psionic echoes of ancient battles. She was given only a staff. Her opponents, 3 AI-driven warriors, wielding ancestral blades. She didn't fight like a Taluan. She fought like a human, improvised, unpredictable. She used the environment, knocked one opponent into a memory projection trap, disarmed another with a feint, finished the last with a move she'd learned in an Earth street fight. The crowd gasped. The healer ring followed. Here, she had to mend a fractured memory stone, a broken narrative of a war orphan, its fragments scattered. Using the old tongue, Lena reassembled the story, not by force but empathy, understanding the child's terror, not just the logic. The seeker ring tested knowledge. Lena had to recite not only the grammar of the old tongue but its context, who had first spoken the poems, what rituals accompanied them. She nailed it. The flame-bearer ring nearly broke her. It was a symbolic passage through ancestral fire, a psionic barrage of concord, trauma, genocide, shame, war. It tried to crush her empathy. Lena clutched the fragments of humanity, love, loss, stories. She walked through flames, speaking this. We carry our scars not as shame, but as warning. Memory is the fire that shapes us. The gallery wept. Last, the judge ring. She had to speak directly to the monolith, an AI hybrid of ancestral minds, and be judged. Its voice was many and one. Are you Taluan?
No, she said.
Then why speak our tongue? To remind you that truth doesn't belong to blood. It belongs to the brave. Silence. Then, spoken like one of us. When Lena emerged, the grand nexus erupted, not in chaos, but in reverent, quiet awe. Talron stood frozen. Kethin stepped forward, his robe now bearing the full crest of Velshon. I claim my seat by blood, he said. "And I second it," said Ellerin Vey, her voice glowing with renewed power. "And I move that Lena Rowe of Earth be named Echo Speaker of the Forgotten Path." Talron tried to protest, but the ancient protocol had spoken. That night, the spire was lit with new color. Banners once hidden were unfurled. Voices in the old tongue sang, not as war chants, but as remembrance. In the humans' quarters, Raj offered Lena a drink. "So, diplomat, rebel, linguist, now honorary ancestral avatar. Not bad." Lena chuckled, exhausted. "I just told the truth." He raised his glass. HFY. Kethin appeared in the doorway. "They still don't know what to make of you," he said. "But they're listening now. And that's never happened before." Lena looked out at the stars beyond the spire. "Good," she said, "because I'm just getting started." End of Chapter 3. Word count, 1-200. Would you like to proceed to Chapter 4? The voice that remains now? You said. Now create Chapter 4 in details in 1200 words. ChatGPT said. Absolutely. Here's Chapter 4. The voice that remains in full detail, approximate 1,200 words. The spire was no longer quiet. Whispers of rebellion had become open conversations. The old tongue was now spoken in low halls and high chambers alike. What began as an archaeological curiosity had become a cultural reckoning and a political fault line. Lena Rowe, human xenolinguist turned echo speaker, stood at the epicenter of it all. But the silence she'd broken had teeth. The aftershock. 2 days after the trial of legacy, a blast rocked the southern quarter of the spire. Memory stone fractured. The Hall of Lost Names, where Lena first glimpsed the forbidden glyphs, was reduced to ash and dust. Lena, standing on a cracked balcony overlooking the smoking ruins, felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes. "It's retaliation," Raj said grimly. "The Purity faction." "They're losing control," Lena replied. "This is their desperation." "And desperation is dangerous," Ellerin Vey added, stepping beside her. "They fear what you've awoken. And now, they're willing to destroy their own history to stop it." Kethin appeared, robe singed, a bandage over one eye. "They tried to collapse the entire Southern Archive. If not for the Mantari volunteers reinforcing the walls, we'd have lost everything." Lena clenched her fists. "We need to strike back. Not with violence. With clarity," Ellerin finished. "You must speak again. To all of them. Not just the Concord. Everyone. The broadcast." The memory core beneath the spire held technology older than any Concord system. From there, Lena could access the psionic beacon, a latticework capable of projecting across the starnet, not in language, but in thought, image, and emotion. It was how the Concord once rallied their fleets. It had not been used in generations. Until now. Raj oversaw the security detail. Kethin stood at the interface, feeding in the recovered texts. Ellerin stabilized the psychic field. Lena stepped into the center of the broadcast ring. "You ready to talk to the galaxy?" Raj asked, a half-smile despite the tension. She took a breath. "Not talk." She placed her palm on the center stone. "Remember." The beacon surged. Across starships, colonies, inner-core satellites, and outer rim stations, a vision unfolded. A Taluan child kneeling before a pyre, reciting a poem of loss. A Drawl mother painting sigils on her cave wall, weeping the names of the fallen. A Concord battlefield soaked in fire, but over it, a single voice rising in song. Then Lena appeared. Not her face, but her memory, curiosity, defiance, compassion. "You buried the voice that made you strong. You silenced the tongue that sang your truth. But it is not lost. It lives in us. In me. In all who remember." The vision ended with the words of the ancestors. "When the dead are heard, the living can begin again." The effect was instant. Thousands of communications flooded the lattice. Concord soldiers removed purity insignias. Young nobles recited ancient oaths. Low-caste workers gathered in plazas, singing warrior hymns and healer psalms. Something ancient was waking, and it was not something the old guard could control. But in the shadows, the Purity faction moved. And Lena was their target. The betrayal. The attack came not from outside, but from within. One of Kethin's own allies, a noble named Varesh, sabotaged the memory core. Not to kill Lena, but to overwrite the archive with fabricated memories. A falsified version of the past that painted the old tongue as madness and Earth's presence as a contagion. Tess, Lena's AI assistant, detected it just in time. Warning: pattern divergence in memory stone core. Identity signatures do not match ancestral record. Emergency shutdown initiated. Kethin stared at the corrupted interface, rage hollowing his voice. They're trying to rewrite the rewrite. They don't want truth. They want myth with themselves on top. Ellerin closed her eyes. Then we burn the lies. The decision. The spire was splitting. A civil divide. Talron issued a mandate. The humans would be expelled, and the old tongue officially reburied. The Purity Council seized control of several key vaults. The Grand Council was paralyzed. But Lena had one move left. The trial had proven her right to speak. The beacon had proven the galaxy wanted to listen. Now, she would speak to the ancestors themselves. The final right. Ellerin revealed a secret chamber, deep in the stone, the Echo Tomb, a room encoded with psionic residue from the original speakers, the founders of the Concord. It said that only those the dead deem worthy can enter and leave unchanged, she warned. Raj glanced at Lena. You've got a hell of a resume. Kethin placed his hand on the door. You don't have to do this. I do, she said. Because it's not about me. It never was. The chamber opened. Lena stepped inside. And vanished. The conversation beyond. Inside the Echo Tomb, time distorted. Lena stood in a void of shifting memories, faces forming and dissolving, voices of joy, rage, hope. A presence emerged, a collective consciousness. The ancestral chorus. You were no blood of ours. Why do you carry our voice? Because you were silenced, she said. And we need your truth now more than ever. Your kind is new.
Loud.
Fragile. But you remember. You fight not for power, but for meaning. Will you carry our words, even when they burn you? Lena nodded. Every day. The chorus fell silent. Then one voice, a woman's, ancient and fierce, whispered. Then speak, Echo, and we will speak through you. The return. Lena emerged from the chamber glowing, not with light, but resonance. Her voice now carried something more. The moment she spoke, psionics across the spire trembled. The ancestors have spoken. Not for conquest. Not for purity. But for memory. The phrase echoed beyond speakers. It entered the minds of every being connected to the beacon. Purity guards dropped their weapons, stunned. The memory stone of the spire glowed with recalled oaths, refracted histories, unburied songs. Talron fled. The Purity faction fractured. The new accord. In the weeks that followed, Lena helped draft a new Concord charter. One that included humanity, recognized multi-species memory rights, and officially restored the old tongue as a cultural artifact of universal importance. Kethin was restored as head of House Velshan. Ellerin became Hype Scion once more. And Raj? He was promoted as humanity's first strategic cultural liaison, a fancy title for the guy who kept Lena from getting killed.
Epilogue.
Lena stood in a quiet glade on a Taluan colony, surrounded by a circle of young beings, Taluan, Drawl, Mantari, and human children alike. She taught them a single word in the old tongue. Shireen. One child asked, "What does it mean?" She smiled. "It means the voice that remains." A beat. Then, "Can we learn more?" Lena sat beside them, the language blooming in her throat. "Of course. Let's begin again." End of Chapter 4. The Voice That Remains. Word count, 1-200. Would you like a compiled version of all chapters in a single document next?